Hello, welcome to episode number 4 of Little Big Knits. This is August 6th, 2017. My name is Selma and I'm coming to you from Ottawa here in Canada. And actually I wanted to podcast from where I spent the last few days, but it just didn't work out. We were in a place called Sauble Beach on Lake Huron in Western Ontario. And it was so gorgeous, and I wanted to record from there, but it just wasn't going to work out. So anyway, I waited till today because I've been dying to share stuff with you. So anyway, my name is Selma, as I think I already mentioned. I'm Selma Knits on Instagram and Ravelry. And thank you for joining me today. Whether you are a returning viewer or a new viewer, thank you so much. Just a couple of little reminders. We have a Ravelry group on Ravelry called Little Big Knits. Feel free to join, and we are going to have a giveaway today. So the giveaway will be in the group, so you'll want to become a member to be part of that. And feel free to leave comments in there as well. The episode show notes are in there and so forth. Thank you to everybody for all the comments from the last time. Last time I shared what I called the dud, a sweater that I haven't really been able to wear because it just wasn't the right yarn and pattern combination, the yarn specifically. And so I had all kinds of ideas. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it yet. But it was kind of neat to get all kinds of ideas of what to do with it. So thank you very much for those suggestions. We'll see. I wasn't planning on doing anything with that sweater. It really was just a dud. But now I have a renewed hope that maybe I could turn it into something. So we'll see what happens. So as I said, I've been away for the last few days, but I have been dying to podcast because I want to show you my finished object. Really want to show you my finished object. As you know, I was working on the Oracle Shawl, a shawl by Kristen Lehrer, also known as Woolen Vine, Diary Behind Woolen Vine Yarns, and responsible for the Yarngasm podcast. I was working on her shawl and it's finished. And I just want to be able to show it to you. I just sort of put it on with a shawl pin today. This thing is so incredibly beautiful, like just so incredibly beautiful. I am so incredibly thrilled with it. And I just really, really wanted to be able to show it off because it really deserves showing off. It is such a fabulous design. Congratulations, Kristen. Just so great. It was a really fun knit. It was great to knit because it's got repeating sections. So, you know, once you've figured out the lace the first time, repeating it again just makes it that much easier. And you are increasing stitches in sections here and there, so you're not constantly increasing stitches, and you just have a lot of fun. Now, I'm going to say that the increasing number of stitches can be a little bit daunting, but I just didn't really actually feel that it slowed me down. But it's just, what a beautiful design. What a beautiful design. And I think, you know, it's going to be such an interesting shawl to wear. I feel like it's one of those shawls that you can sort of do a variety of things. You know, you can just kind of whip it around if you want. You can fold it in half and wear it sort of in a more traditional way. You can, you know, wear it with a pin. It's really, really, really fun. And I actually took it with me to Sauble Beach, and there were some cool nights, so I ended up wearing it there. Totally gorgeous design. I'm not one to repeat knits, but I have to admit that I've been sort of fantasizing about my next color choices, and I really look forward to seeing what everybody else does with it. So this was actually published on August 1st, so it's now out there and ready for enjoyment. So, as I said, it was a really fun knit. Some people have asked me if you need to have some experience. I do think you probably want to have a little bit of experience with lace before you move into this. And I think I mentioned that before. And as Kristen has said, this is written as a 3-color shawl, but it could easily be a 4-color shawl or a 5-color shawl. I kind of think like Stephen West, you know, he has made exploration stations with multiple colors in them, and I feel like it's the kind of thing. I used the full skeins. Actually, oh, I didn't bring it with me, but of the dark blue, so the first color was a hand-dyed, somebody hand-dyed for me, or gave me. I don't know that she dyed it for me, but she gave it to me. And I always loved it, so I was so happy to be able to use it. Thank you, Jessica. And the other 2 are yarns by Ellie and Ada. So the dark blue, as I mentioned before, although it looks black at moments, but it really is a dark blue. That is, both of them are in her merino silk base. That is the calligraphy ink. And then this sort of lilac gray color here is her hydrangea colorway. So I had yarns left over of Jessica's hand dyed and of the dark blue, but I ran out of this yarn. And I suspect that perhaps the skein was a little short. I'm not sure. I wasn't able to do quite as many repeats, but it didn't really matter. I ended up having to sort of just stop, and I thought, that's fine. It's probably going to look gorgeous, and it does. There's just, in the original shawl, I think there's a little bit of a strip where you get these lines of lace, and it's a little bit more noticeable. So that's where I think, you know, if one feared that he or she would be playing yarn chicken, then this is always an option, is to put a 4th color in there. But I don't know that everybody else ran out of color. I just did, and they were skeins that should have been sufficient. But I'm blaming it more perhaps on my gauge, or on the fact that maybe there wasn't quite enough in that skein, because I certainly had enough of the blue and they were the same yarn. So that's my conclusion. Anyway, absolutely stunning. Stunning, stunning, stunning. Yeah, look at that. Just beautiful. So I wanted to tell you something else about Kristen, because that's not the first knit. I think Kristen's a really interesting designer. She doesn't have many designs out, but when she designs something, it's beautiful and it's interesting. And I actually knit this a couple of years ago. This was her Wildesmeer pattern that came out a couple of years ago. And it's Wildesmeer, which means wild sea. I'm just going to take this off for a second. And she designed this to have these kind of like seashell motif at the bottom, and then a knit-on edge. Right now the terminology is not coming to me, that kind of looks like waves, an applied border. That's what it is. And I ended up knitting this out of Mirasol Nuna, which is kind of a sport weight. So I ended up with a slightly bigger shawl. I wear the shawl a lot. I have it at work, and it's just so lovely and elegant that it goes nicely with, you know, a simple work outfit. And I'm often cold at the office. So, so this is another one of her designs, and this was so much fun to knit. I was almost sad it was over. The first lace section just zoomed through and it was super easy, and this section was far easier and really fascinating to make. And then the applied border for me was a first time thing. I had never done an applied border before, and in fact I had tried, but I had not been successful. So it was neat to do an applied border with really clear instructions. So if you're looking for any other Kristen patterns, this is a wonderful one to try. And it's sort of considered a one skeiner in fingering weight, although I made mine, as I said, in a sports weight and really loved it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what else Kristen has to offer us in the coming months, because I believe she's designing. So let's see. Sorry. You know what? It's quite early. I usually podcast slightly later, and I really haven't had my tea yet. And oh, another thing I wanted to say, sorry, I might be bouncing around a bit, about this shawl. I was nervous about blocking the Oracle shawl because I've never blocked a round shawl before. And with wires, it actually ended up being far easier than I thought. It did take a while. I listened to a podcast. I was actually listening to Squirrel Pie Productions, which is a new podcast to me, but she was also a test knitter for Kristen, and I started watching her and really enjoy watching her. So I used wires, and I just went in through the natural tips for about 20 tips, and then I would switch wires, and then I just laid it out and stretched it out, and it worked out great. There's a picture of it on my Ravelry page. And I think other knitters have also posted pictures of their blocking of the shawl, so you can always see, because I was a little daunted by that at the beginning. I thought, how am I going to do this? But I thought, patience and perseverance will get us there. So Kristen has very kindly offered a giveaway for the Oracle Shawl. And I would like to also offer up a giveaway for the Oracle Shawl. So this means that there are two possibilities of winning the Oracle Shawl. So if you want to join in this giveaway, it'll be open until the next time I podcast, which will be in 2 or 3 weeks. So you can head over to the Ravelry group. There will be a tab for the giveaway, and there will be a prompt. You'll need to be a member of the group, and the prompt is to tell me something about your learning of knitting or crochet, whatever you do if you're not a knitter. So when did you learn to knit, or how did you learn to knit, or a time when you learned to knit something that was mind-blowing for you, or something about your learning and your knitting or crocheting. So that is essentially the prompt. I always love to hear when people learn to knit. For me, there's something very nostalgic. I remember being 9 years old and sitting on my mom's lap. I think I mentioned that actually in my first episode, and producing a pot holder that my father still uses. It's a museum piece. So, that's a wonderful memory for me. And I remember the first time I made a garment, it was the summer I turned 15, and I made a gray mohair sweater. So and that was a real learning experience, but my mother was a garment maker, so, she certainly helped. But I'm curious to hear about your learning. So head on over to the group if you feel like participating and you'd like a chance to win one of 2 copies of the Oracle Shawl, and then we'll draw for that the next time. So good luck with that. So I finished the shawl, and then, and as always, I'm always itching to move on to the next thing. And I already had plans, which I had mentioned to you guys. And so I started working on these other 2 things. So the first thing that I started working on, well, actually not the first thing, this was the second thing. I started working on Isla's poncho, which I'm actually housing in this bag that my friend Dana gave me. Thank you, Dana. It's an Eden Cottage Yarns bag, even though I'm not using Eden Cottage Yarns right now, but it was kind of the perfect size for this one skein. If you recall, if you've watched before, it's this Katia Spring Fever in this wild turquoise to bright pink colorway. Actually, what colorway is that? Number 63. And what I was trying to do was to remake this poncho from the 1970s. Not quite, I wasn't trying to remake this poncho, but I was trying to make a poncho for my daughter to replace this poncho, because look at this thing. This is for a little child's head, right? It's really teeny weeny, meant for, a 5-year-old girl. And it's got was made in the 70s sometimes, cute little detail there. So I wanted to remake it. Somebody actually suggested after my last episode that I try crocheting it, but I just don't think my crochet skills are quite that good yet. And I didn't want to, I honestly wanted to be able to zoom through something and not spend too much time fiddling with it. So I thought, not this time, but I do think that it's really adorable, and she still wears it. Like, she still squeezes herself into it, even though she's 10 and about 5'1" in height. So I wanted to make her a new poncho. So I was thinking about, you know, constructing it. And I actually don't know if they sewed, I think they sewed the top, but I wanted to be able to start at the top and then go down. And what's interesting about this one is, even though it's crochet, there's a knitted portion here. So they knitted this band in between, which is kind of an interesting feature. And then went back to crochet. So I was thinking, how can I make it one piece? And I decided that I would do a magic cast on of the top and go down. I wanted to have an I-cord edge so that it would be neat and wouldn't roll, hopefully, although I'm finding that it is rolling anyway. And then when I looked at my hoodie, I realized that even though the original poncho hood is really a right angle, most hoodies have a little bit of a rounded thing. And I realized that the number of stitches that I was putting on here, there may not be enough to really, like, I didn't want to make a tight hood. So I'm telling you all about my musings. So I started doing it, and I'm just finishing the hood. As I said, I started with the magic cast on, and you can just barely see where that was. Magic cast on is a great cast on technique used for toe up socks all the time. And I thought, why not do it here, but instead of going in the round, going back and forth. And what I did was I ended up with a little bit of a point, but I started doing some increases along the back to increase it. Sorry, I'm realizing that my throat is dry. We're also having a very sunny, cloudy day, so I don't know about, hopefully the quality is not too bad of the video. So I'm gonna look really, really goofy now. These are not colors that I would wear at all, but they look fabulous on my daughter. So I'm right here, and I'm doing some decreases so that, I mean, she's still a lot smaller than me, but and I want to do, I don't quite know what I look like, but I feel like I should be tending sheep. So here, after the little knitted portion here, there's still an opening, and so I'm going to be doing something like that too. So I'm going to bring it in so that it's a little bit tighter, but then continue with the opening. So there we go. We've moved into the way the yarn works. And actually, I was really worried about working with this yarn because I thought it's going to be so splitty, but it has not been so splitty. Even though it's quite loosely plied, it's been fairly easy to work with. And then from the turquoise, they add one strand of purple, and I've just moved into the section where there's 2 strands of purple and 2 strands of turquoise. The only thing I haven't liked is that where they join the new strand, it's a knot. So it's really not very, not a smooth transition at all. So you can see there that there is the knot. Not so exciting, but I don't know if there's any other way to do it. So that's how far I've gotten. I ended up using my Knit Picks needles 3.75. That's what I grabbed, and that's what I'm using. And I got 26 stitch gauge over 4 inches or 10 centimeters. So I ended up casting on 60 stitches per side, and really, I'm really kind of improvising it. Did some increases, as I said, along the back. And now I'm moving to decreases, although you probably won't see them very well because the marled aspect of the yarn. And it's going along. I did this in the last couple of days. Well, I think in the last, I started on Thursday. Yeah, I think I started on Thursday. And I just had to mark. I'm using, oh, one thing I got to show you guys, but I'm using a wonderful progress keeper that my friend Carola gave me in Edinburgh. Isn't that, I just really love that. It's like a goddess. So using that as a progress keeper on there. I had misplaced it for a while, and I finally found it, and I was so happy. So that's whip number 1. Whip number 2 is being housed in my bag by Hawthorne Cottage Crafts, my friend Kate. Kate, who has a podcast called Hawthorne Cottage Craft, is coming to Ottawa in October, and then we're going to Rhinebeck together. I'm very excited. So she makes fabulous bags and has an Etsy shop called Hawthorne Cottage Crafts. It's a great size. Oh, and before I show you the project, Sue of Crafty Knitter 7, Crafty Knitter 7 of the Two Tangle Skeins made me this wonderful Notions pouch, which I just adore. And in it is this fabulous little stitch marker keeper in the shape of a macaron. And in it are some stitch markers. And then I'm using a whole bunch that were given to me by, oh my gosh, the name has just escaped me. Ginger Snap That. Really fun. So anyway, Sue is hopefully going to be making a whole new series of bags, and she's got a shop called The Tangled Skein CA, and I'm really excited about her new bags. And this Notions pouch is one of the first Notions pouches that I've actually just put stuff in it and started using. I had these other little pouches that I quite liked, but they never fit scissors. And so this one fits a fairly large pair of scissors, actually, that somebody gave me. And it fits them very nicely, and it would fit a crochet hook or, you know, some double pointed needles possibly. I really like it, so I hope she's going to make some of these for her shop. Anyway, in this bag is the Flex. So this was a gifted pattern to me by my friend Holly. I think I lied last time. I think I attributed it to Kate, but because they both give me patterns at the same time. So this is Flex, designed by Heidi Kiermaier. Supposed to be knit in Quince & Company Castrel, which is an Aran weight chainette linen. And I was knitting it in this stuff called Katia Fanny, which is a silk and viscose blend. And I talked to you guys about it a bit last time, that it was a bit of a ropey experience. It's been very easy to work with, though. Now, the construction of this sweater. I don't think I can show you a whole lot right now. I am in a phase where I'm having to completely trust the designer. This is what it looks like. I can't really tell you a whole lot. You first knit a portion of the bottom front, and then you let it go, and then you knit up the back, and then suddenly you do a whole bunch of cable cast on and join it all together and create the front yoke and the neckline and the sleeves and all of that. I have to say that I'm kind of used to being able to just read a pattern and then do what I want, and this one is like I have to read every single thing twice. Now, that doesn't mean that it's particularly complicated. I think for me there was partly a thing of letting go and just following somebody else's pattern. But I'm very curious to see. I really hope it fits. I hope it's the right length. I'm used to modifying the length of sweaters because, as I said, I'm kind of short. Last episode I told you guys. So I usually, modify sweaters to either shorten them or lengthen them depending how they're going to fit on my particular body length and shape. So this time I'm just having to trust. Now this is really fast. It's being knit on 5mm needles with an Aran weight yarn. So I kind of think if it's a complete disaster, I'll probably know before I get to the end, and I can always pull back. It was actually my first time doing a cable cast on, and there was a bit of a mental shift that needed to be made for me, because I swore that you wouldn't have this pearl bump on the front, but I actually contacted Heidi Kiermaier and I said, if I do the cable cast on, I end up with a pearl bump on the front, is that supposed to be there? And she said yes. So I was like, okay. So then I moved forward. I looked online because I'd never done a cable cast on, and I wasn't quite sure what the difference between a cable cast on and a knitted cast on would be. And the knitted cast on, you're going as if you're knitting and then slipping the new stitch back onto the needle. Whereas a cable cast on, you're going through 2 stitches. So that was an interesting revelation for me. So I can't tell you a whole lot yet about this because what does that even look like? It just looks like some rags. It looks like an art installation piece at this point. So anyway, it is hopefully going to be done in the next week because it is really fast. We'll see. I feel like the poncho and this sweater are sort of competing for time. I had a lot of time to knit while I was at Sauble Beach on Lake Huron, and so I was able to get, I essentially cast this on just before I left on Tuesday, and I cast the hoodie on or the poncho on, as I said, I think it was about Thursday. So, I've gotten quite a bit of time knitting. So we'll see how far I am able to advance in these. Hopefully, at least finish this sweater before the next time I podcast. But yeah, so it has been a fun knitting time. There was a brief moment where I was nervous about where things were going with the flex. And I hadn't quite started the poncho, so it was still like in my mind bubbling and I was trying to figure it out. And I don't know if this ever happens to you, but suddenly I was just totally irritable. Not outwardly towards my poor friend Liz or anything, but I was just like inside, there was just like all this. And then I thought, okay, let's just start the poncho, see what happens. And I got about, a centimeter on each side now, and then suddenly everything just went, because my idea was working out. And I thought, okay, my mojo is not completely gone. So anyway, that is what I am working on, and I think that just about covers it. I have a couple of acquisitions. I was on the Two Tangled Skeins last weekend, and so I did show these, but I thought I'd quickly show them to you here. I forgot. First there was the stitch markers that Ginger Snap Bat gave that came. They're very simple, but I really like them, and I think these might be my favorite kinds of stitch markers. They're just little rings with a bead on them. They're just simple, light, and it came with a very fun Hello Kitty stitch marker, which is so cute. My daughter hasn't seen them yet, but I keep thinking she's probably going to steal them from me. I don't know what she would do with them, but just take them because they're cute. So that was one acquisition. The last time I podcasted, can that become a verb? I episode. Do you episode? Anyway, the last time I said I was afraid to go to the mailbox because I thought there might be another skein of yarn from my birthday purchases, and there was. So this was what I got. It's from Herbstblatt Regina in her Birch Silky Single. So it's a 70 superwash and 30% silk blend. And I wanted to get some speckled yarns and ones that can be kind of like accent yarns, because I just discovered that they can be so useful in shawl making. So I got this one, and it's just got beautiful caramels and sort of some blacks happening in there, and there's a little bit of blue as well in this segment. So there's just different things happening. Doesn't that look great with my nail polish? Yeah, so I'm very pleased with this. Thank you, Regina. She sells on Etsy, and I follow her on Instagram, so I always see when she's got pretty stuff. And then Sue gave both Lynn and I, as a Potiversary gift, a skein from Tilting Planet. And I got this beautiful light blue with some sort of lilac going through it. And Tilting Planet I had just recently discovered. And where was she from? I felt like she was Canadian as well. She also sent along a very cute, excuse the sounds, a very cute stitch marker. I'll just make as much sound as I possibly can. Not sure where she's from, but that's her label, and she's Tilting Planet on Etsy as well. And here is this really adorable little progress keeper that's got teeny weeny confetti in it. Anyway, lovely superwash merino yarn. So it's very soft. It's like really soft. I don't know that I'm going to make this into socks. This might have to become, I don't know, part of something else. We'll see. But it's really beautiful. So thank you, Sue. And I think that's all I have to share with you regarding my making. Last time, I'll tell you a little bit about stuff that's been going on if you're interested in hearing it, and if not, feel free to join me next time. I guess I'm moving into a little bit of a chit chat section. Last time I podcasted, excuse me, I told you that Isla was at camp and I was really excited about her coming home. I couldn't, when I actually saw her, I was so in love with her. We're in love with our kids, but it just like filled my heart with joy. It was really nice to see her. I was then really saddened because I realized within a few hours, she just happened to get changed in front of me. I realized that she had a bullseye on her torso, which is a red ring with a black circle, which meant that she had had a tick bite, and that is a sign of Lyme disease. So we took her to the doctor right away the next day, and she was complaining that she was having headaches and her knees were sore, and so she's now on antibiotics, and it's going to be a 3-week course of antibiotics, and everything will be fine, I'm sure, because we caught it quite quickly. It had been about a week to 10 days, but that was a bit nerve-wracking when she first arrived home. But all is going to be well, I'm sure. And so she's been home and hanging out, and we were supposed to have our in-laws here in August. My husband is from Uruguay, and his parents come pretty much every summer for the month of August and a part of September. So they're usually here for 5 or 6 weeks, but unfortunately they can't come this year because they both had some health issues. And actually my mother-in-law will be operated soon, this week, for a brain aneurysm. So they're not able to come, and so we are hoping the best for them, and then also having to scramble because they were going to be Isla care. So we are, our plans for August are sort of changing, and we're actually taking a little bit more time off than we would have and spending time with her and hanging out at home. I'm still working here and there, but we're sort of taking turns, and Yado, my son, is taking a day, and a friend of ours is also taking a day here and there, and then she'll be in some camps later on in the summer. So we have spent some time together, which has been fun, and we made some chocolate mint ice cream one day from scratch. Well, it took 2 days because we made a custard and froze the canister, and then the next day made ice cream. I made 22 jars of jam one day. In one day, I made a yellow plum vanilla jam in the morning, only 7 jars of that, and then the rest were of sour cherry jam. And we went swimming at my favorite spot on the Gatineau River, and we've done all kinds of lovely things. And then I went away. I went away because my in-laws were supposed to be here. I felt a little bit bad leaving my husband, but he said, just go. And so the last few days I've spent at Sauble Beach. I cannot tell you how beautiful that place is. I felt like I was in Cape Cod. There weren't as many big dunes or anything, but it was just beautiful. Beautiful place. It's a gorgeous beach. You feel like it's the ocean, but the water is sweet and the bottom is super clear. And it was just an absolute delight. And it's a lovely place, quite well frequented, but there are no big hotels or big motels on the beach or anything like that. So it's quiet, it's lovely, and my friend Liz had rented a lovely little cabin cottage thing with 2 bedrooms, and with a barbecue and a fire pit outside, and which was about a 30-second walk to the beach. So we would get up first thing in the morning and she'd have a cup of coffee. I'd have a big glass of water with lemon juice in it. I can't drink coffee first thing in the morning, unfortunately. And we'd go for a swim, even though it was not necessarily the best time of the day and the warmest time of the day, but it was really wonderful. And we saw tons of monarch butterflies. Like the place was just full of monarch butterflies. We saw some, I think they're called piper plovers. They're a type of plover anyway, and they are an endangered species, and they have a protected area, I think, there. And so that was lovely. They're adorable little birds. And we just had a fabulous time. It's about a 7-hour drive from here. So it was a bit of a hike to get there and get home, but totally worth it. Totally worth it. And I would go again next year. We'll see what happens. And so I'm back, and then back to work this week and taking turns taking care of Isla and enjoying the summer bounty. We are harvesting garlic like crazy, and we're going to go to the garden plot a little bit later today, and I expect to bring home a whole bunch of lettuce, some kale, probably some green beans. It has not been a good year for the raspberries, but we'll see if we get any, and the rest of the garlic, because I've harvested some, but we need to harvest the rest of it. So that's what we've got on for the rest of today. We'll probably go for a bike ride. It's a cool day, but it's a lovely day. You may notice from the quality of my image that the sun is kind of coming and going because I'm using natural light. So that's what we've got coming along. So I hope this podcast has found you well. I hope you've enjoyed it and you've had a good cup of tea or a cup of something or a glass of something and enjoyed some crafting. And we'll probably see you next time. Don't forget to go in and put an entry in for the giveaway if you're interested in winning the Oracle Shawl and starting on that. 3 full skeins of fingering weight. Look in your stashes because it's a great shawl. Anyway, I wish you well. Take care, and I hope I haven't forgotten anything, but we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.